Well, it is a day to perform some quoting for Dirt Perfect at a repeat customer. Let's get this quote going. All right, I am sure that you guys remember the cistern that we tore out from behind this cabin. I've been back a couple of times to kind of check to see if any of the settlement is going to be a problem, meaning creating a bowl that holds water. We packed this sucker and packed this sucker. I think it came in really nice. It did not settle at all, basically. And everything that we contoured on the backside and on that hillside sloped in really nicely and held well. But this customer has asked us to come back and quote multiple steps to better this property. Step number one, he is wanting to add onto his current lean-to, change the roof structure, and bring the barn all the way out to 55 feet, which gets you somewhere right over in here. We will not do the pole barn portion of that, but we will do all the dirt work, the proper compaction, placing the rock so that the pole barn guy can come in, erect his barn, or pour his concrete first, whichever path he so chooses. But for us, we're gonna have to cut this bank down a little bit, maybe transfer, if that's good packable dirt, to this front side, get a nice flat 18 feet wide by 55 feet long pad for a pole barn addition. He is talking about maybe going with an A-frame style roof that ties into that existing building there. We're going to remove all of these trees that you see, this tree here, the apple tree which is dying, and the bush on the other side of the cabin. And then as we come around here, there's another phase to this to make this more manageable and maintainable. From that stump over to that clump of trees, it is this way, that way, this way. It is all over the place. And if we come over here by this stump, you guys can see how low of an area that is between me and where the new addition of pole barn would be. It kind of drops way down, but it's got a steep bank right here, as this is a natural catch basin, if you will, that catches water off that hillside and sends it all the way down and around to that ditch way back there. So we want to leave the ditch, but we want to change this pitch for multiple reasons. It'll allow it to be more maintainable, mowable, plant trees on it, whichever he prefers. But down there where that addition's going to happen and we make that pole barn pad, we're going to have to re-slope that bank over in there and utilize some of that dirt to fill in this low spot, so that right here where we're at is at an angle, but it's the same angle all the way across over there to where that fence post is. I don't know if you guys can see that fence post very well or not, but it's basically straight uphill from the second cedar tree and maybe 10 foot past it. After we get this contoured and that pad established, we then have to come over here, continue to remove some of this center hump or knot. As you can see, the ground falls back off again. Again, we have to pay very close attention, as there's another waterway where that hillside feeds. It's somewhat of a ditch. You can kind of see it established right up there by that cedar on the right, but the ditch is really defined down there where those boards are. So that water comes down the hill, enters into that ditch, goes down to the driveway, and gets evacuated through a culvert. But this area here is also very difficult to maintain. So we'll transfer this dirt and some of that dirt on that hump over there to fill in this low spot, but leave it to where it still is a natural waterway to connect to that ditch. As we come over here, we have a clump of trees. I have no clue what type of tree this is, but it's confined at the bottom, but really crazy wide at the top. It drops, I don't know if it's a catalpa tree I think that's maybe a catalpa tree now that I'm seeing all these things on the ground and actually paying attention. But the moles really love this area because he can't maintain it very well. You can see where the ground has slipped here. So there's a slip plane right in here. Water comes off the hill, hits that, and it just keeps pushing it down. So here again, we're going to come from that pine tree up there over to that cedar tree, and we're going to blend some of this dirt that way and roll a lot of this dirt down into that ditch to kind of fan this around all the way down to that main ditch down the edge of the driveway. Get rid of these trees, get rid of that clump of trees, and then you guys can kind of see, if I come over here and get down lower, if we don't have to go very far and then we lose everything. So this big hump is going to be shaved off, transferred into that low spot. That big hump over there is going to be shaved off and sent both ways. And we can definitely handle that. Get rid of all these trees, take them to the back, create a great big burn area, and then there's another phase. So let's go to the back of the property and see what's next. All right, hopefully you guys can see all of those pink flags scattered all the way out through there. And then we have this clump and that clump. We have this tree, we have this burning area. This side over here is a lot of spread out work. It's not nearly as close and confined. But this tree behind us is dead. We're going to remove that tree. We're going to come in here, take out any dead trees that aren't growing. You can see 3 of them for sure. Brush cut all of that out of there. Leave the good mature trees that you see on the back side here. Leave those good mature trees. Leave these good mature trees, but clean up all of that undergrowth, and anything that we can't brush cut, we'll pluck out of there with the excavator, pack it down there on that hillside somewhere, probably right in there. Then we're going to progress over the hill. Got a really large brush pile on this corner and on the opposite corner. Every single small tree that's in this field that basically is not doing the field any good, we're going to remove all of those, create a great big pile out here in the center, and burn everything. And then we're going to dig a hole and get rid of everything, smooth it back off. So he's got some future plans for this field here, and clean up, create a nice access to the woods on the back side. This is going to take the excavator, the skid steer, and the small dozer. We're going to need a few pieces for this corner here. The next step to this side is there is 11 acres of woods back in here, and they want us to create some UTV trails. I don't have the map. The property owner's not here. So laying out UTV trails is a little bit more involved when it comes to the path. But if we walk up through here, you can kind of see this road, which is the actual driveway from the bottom. It carries all the way up, comes around, and enters into the woods right there. If you go back on DP's channel, he actually tore down an old cabin on this property right over here behind me. It's a really good video, and it kind of gets you a start to the new owner's investment into this property. He's putting a lot of time and effort into this property to make it better, and he's making a lot of very good decisions. But as we come up through here, you can see there's a main access, but he's wanting to ensure that there's a trail system back in here in this 11 acres that they can ride. They own all the property, and they want it all to be not beginner trails, not an established road, but instead of bumping off of trees, they just want an opening so they can ride down through there and access every inch of the property basically with a UTV. And then there's another phase. As we come down to the bottom of the driveway, I'll explain the last phase, which maybe we did this backwards and the front of the driveway is actually going to be phase 1. It really all depends on how deep he wants to process it and when the pole barn builder is actually going to be available to come out and erect the pole barn. Because if he says he can be here in a month, well, then we're going to get the pole barn pad ready first. We can do all the other stuff while he's working on the pole barn. So let's go down to the bottom and I'll explain the rest. All right, we're now down at the bottom of the hill. You guys can see a bunch of deadfall over here in the woods. As you come down through here, you're going to see where the previous owner kind of cut some things down and just let it lay in the woods. Made some other brush piles down through here. And as we get down here to the bottom, they did some more work down at the bottom. And he's wanting to clean that up a little bit. So if you can just envision coming through here with the excavator, bunching up all of this brush, grabbing big old handfuls with the excavator, and then progressing up through here, just kind of cleaning the just deadfall and stuff the previous owner cut down out of here to where the good trees can actually grow and greenery can come up in there, opposed to just a bunch of brush, leaves, and honestly, if a fire was to start, that sucker would burn for days and days and days and days. Just clean it up a little bit. As we come down here to the actual entrance of the property, we've got a few outlying issues here. He was hopeful that we could get the brush cutter in here and clean it up a little more than it already is. I'm concerned the brush cutter is not the proper fit for this. There are some stumps that have been cut off. The ground is very erratic. It's not very consistent. The top edge, we might be able to run the brush cutter down. That opposite corner, we might be able to run the brush cutter down. But he's really just wanting to clean up all the viney stuff that's on the ground. So again, you've got the same concept. Track up the driveway with the excavator, bunch that stuff up, make a pile, grab piles, put them in the back of the truck, take them up there and dump them. And then we've got this, what I call a widow maker. Got a top that's hanging in the pine tree that darn near touches the ground, but he's been in there working around that sucker, and you just never know when the wind's blowing just right when that's going to come out of there. So we're going to reach up there with the excavator, pluck that out of the pine tree, leave the big mature trees on this bank because he does like the little bit of the view blocking that it does provide. Kind of make this area look better and allow whatever this, well, there's some type of viney product down in here that is good ground cover. It just doesn't have a chance to really flourish because of all the other larger viney product that you can kind of see here hanging out of this tree. So I'm gonna clean this corner up, this entrance up as well, take all this stuff, take it to the back side and burn it also. That kind of gives you the full scope of this quote. It's multiple different things on one site, all in the spirit of cleaning the property up, making it look better, easier to maintain, and then also the addition for the expansion of storage space for multiple things and making that building more usable with storage space both below and above. This one is going to be a little bit harder to understand because of all the foliage that's on the trees. We're going to do our best here. Down here in this area, as you guys saw earlier in the video, is the actual location that we're going to do the pole barn pad. And that pad is going to be 55 feet out. We're going to try to get it as close as we can here. Sometimes this is a little harder to get it perfect, and then it's going to be 8 feet wide or 18 feet wide. That's going to get us close enough. Then it's going to come all the way back and connect to that building there. So we will save this as pole barn pad. Other save. And that's going to be the flat spot that we create, because his ultimate plan is to tie this building that's actually underneath this tree to this building, which is going to be an extension. There is a lean-to, if you will, right here underneath that small roof. It is basically closed off to the outside elements on 3 sides, but this side here is open. And then this building here is a 2-story building. So the long-term goal is to add 55 feet of building that will also be 2 stories and be closed off on 4 sides. And then all along this edge here will actually be a 2-foot, maybe 4-foot if we can squeak it out of it, overhang and a concrete sidewalk for access to this building. Long-term goals may be to connect this building to this cabin, which is the actual house that you guys saw where we tore the cistern out behind it. And then the second long-term, maybe third long-term goal is to rid of this building here and add an addition onto the backside of this cabin. That is some future potential and future conversations. But this gets you a good understanding where we're going to do that pole barn pad off the end of the existing building. And then if we come back to the back side, basically, and it kind of comes off of this corner, so this might be a little interesting to draw. But if I come over here, probably right around in, it's a little hard for me also. See, there's the property corner. There's the road. So if we come over to here and up to about right there, this entire area, and we have a property line we got to be careful with here, which is right there. And then we come down that property line to kind of square this off. That is actually going to be, we're going to put boundary, and then we're going to call that contour to inshore mowable / manageable. So what we have going on there is everything currently in that area is kind of up and down. You guys saw me, I squatted down right over here to kind of show you that contour to where it drops off down into here and then picks back up. But this all the way down through here is actually an interesting slope that doesn't tie together nicely, and it makes it very hard to manage / mow. So we're actually going to contour this entire red area to tie the two together the best that we can. And to kind of, if you remember, I said we're going to take the dirt 2 directions. So some of this dirt will actually go this direction here. Oops, I got to click in there to make it say dirt direction. But then we also must remember that we can only take part of this dirt, and then we got to come all the way over here, and this dirt's going to be a little bit more pushing, but it's going to come this direction, and some of that will actually stay. Some of that will actually stay over in this area to fill in this valley that comes down right off the side of this building. But some of it is also going to come across here, and the last little bit of dirt, and it might actually be the first little bit of dirt, is going to come up this hillside and get put into this location, so that the back slope behind this building all the way through here will actually be a longer, slower slope until we get up to this point. And then there's an actual water bar. You can kind of see it right here. We call it a water bar. So all the water that runs down this hill, where you see the crosshair going downhill there, hits this water bar and then runs all the way down the back side of this property and then shoots out over here into these woods, which is then a downhill slope that carries it all the way down here to the highway drainage. So contouring all of this is very important, but we also must keep this water bar to ensure that that water stays on the back side. And we may soften that water bar a little bit, but basically we will ensure there is a high point right in here all the way down through here, and then it actually slopes this direction so that that water comes down and then it has a roadblock, if you will, and then it sends it down this way because of the natural contour of the ground. That kind of gets us everything over here. We've got a tree to remove on the back side of the house here. We've got some fencing to take out in this area here, and a slight bit of contouring over in here, but not much. But the other large portion of this job, again, this is going to happen in 3 stages, and if we can get all of it done in one shot, we will. But this homeowner is completely understanding that we may be, with the winter weather that we're having, we may only be able to do this part and then have to peel off in case the weather gets bad, and then we'll come over here and do this part. But on this side of the property, it's more of a cleanup, if you will. We've got a big old brush pile right underneath the line that I'm drawing now, but I've got to capture this entire field so that you guys get a better understanding of what it is this homeowner is trying to accomplish. We come actually all the way over through here, and then it's going to shoot straight back down to just below that brush pile that I started at. And this entire orange area is going to be cleared. Right now we're going to call it a food plot, as there may be a potential that he's going to put some grasses in here. What that is going to allow is a wide open field all through here. We will actually probably start a burn pile right here in the central location so that we can bring all of the materials from this side, this direction, and that will ensure that we can have 2 pieces of equipment working at the same time, and then all the materials from this area coming in this direction. And once you get up here to this top side, there's actually 2 clumps of trees. A clump of trees here that is actually somewhat segregated from the big woods here, and then another clump of trees right here that is also separated from the actual big clump of trees. We're going to take all the small trees out of here that are suffocating the actual, what I call money trees, in both of those areas. Get in there with the brush cutter and cut all the small stuff down after we remove the saplings that need to be burned. Bring all of that over here, get that burning. We've got a big debris pile. It's mainly tree tops and trees, etc. right here on this corner that we're going to clean up, and then all the way down through here there has been brush kind of lined up where someone tried to clear this field before. And then the potential long-term goals for this side is going to allow for an actual / potential, and it's not going to be small. It has the potential to be a rather large endeavor, but this is going to kind of give you an estimate. But that is potentially to turn into water, and we're just going to label that a pond. And that may move. This is not an exact location, but that might move over into here to come up to the road and give us a good outlet down here to some natural drainage that again comes down here to the highway and then gets taken out by the highway drainage. But the third and final part, which I still have to do a walkthrough with the property owner, but back in here he has several acres, and it runs to about this point and comes all the way back in here and then comes over We gotta zoom out so I can get this drawn properly. Comes over to about right here and then shoots back down this other property line to a certain point, and then it shoots straight over, comes back down, and then actually runs straight behind here. But I don't want to draw that one because it's gonna make that orange color cross over. But if you come over and connect these two dots, this entire area, let's do this one as boundary again, and we're going to name that UTV/bike trails, as he is wanting to create several trail systems, if you will, all through every bit of this, so he can ride on the acres that they have and ensure that he's not having to cross over a whole bunch of downed trees, etc., etc. Once we get in here and create a trail system all the way through this entire property plot, he will then have a manageable trail system that they can enjoy and ensure that they've got some type of a road, if you will. There will not be any gravel. There will not be any rock whatsoever. These will be dirt trails, but we're going to take the current overgrowth and major intertwined underbrush and all that good stuff, and we're going to get it out of there and create some type of a trail system back in here. And then the last bit that we have to do, which we're starting to cross over quite a bit here, but right here by this dead tree, he's actually got an area, oops, forgot to hit add there. He has an area that he is wanting to, and this is going to be much larger than what the area truly will end up being, but he's wanting a rock pad in some way, shape, or form that ensures he's got a fire pit area, graveled, should I say. That's going to be a graveled, not traveled. Gee whiz, I can't type today. Gravel fire pit area is what that's going to be. That's a little bit smaller of a portion to this job, but that does have to happen while we have the equipment on site. But if we zoom out here, you can see there's quite a bit of work to be done on this property. And the way that I can see us taking care of this is it really comes down to when the pole barn builder would need us to be ready. This is something that we can do in weather that isn't the greatest. There's probably 1.5 to 2 foot of fill that we have to take care of on this front side to ensure the entire pad is level, and some contouring work and tree removal on this back side. So we've got the option of doing this small portion first. The reason I see that happening first is to ensure that we are ready for the pole barn builder and he can take his next phase. As that pole barn builder is building this and we've removed these trees, we can take those trees over here to this area where we're going to clear this entire green area and burn right here, kind of where the future pond may go. So if we start here, that ensures we have the material that's going to burn from this area transferred over to this area, and then we can start the stripping phase so that we can get all this burned. And then the last step would be the trails, and again, I've got to walk that with him. That may be something that I take you guys along for. I'm not exactly sure how comfortable this customer is with being on video, but if he's comfortable with it, you can kind of see where that trail system starts, and this is a driveway that takes him to his cabin. You have to almost, well, probably more than 90, but let's just call it a 90. Turn 90 to get over here to the actual structures, but that does have an established drive up here beyond the fire pit area, and that's where that trail system will start and then kind of come out through here. And I'm sure he's going to want some interesting turns and things like that to make it more enjoyable than just one straight path down the center. But that's the full scope of the work that we're going to perform on this job. We have been awarded this job. Hopefully this view gives you guys a much better understanding of what we're going to perform on this in the 3 parts that it's going to be. And as always, like, comment, subscribe.